Hello, everyone, and welcome to VectoScalar Tech Talk today. In this episode, our speaker, Tan Siok Siok, is going to cover insights about AI for humanity, building a sustainable AI for the future. Welcome, Siok, to VectoScalar Tech Talk.
Well, thanks for inviting me because I apologize for being late because I was rushing from another event, and also I was not familiar with your technology, so to speak. So ironically, even though I wrote a book about AI, I always struggle with the tech, before I do an interview or go live on video and things like that. Thanks for your patience, and thanks to the audience for waiting for us. Yeah.
No, I totally understand. Being an AI speaker, definitely you must be having back-to-back engagement because that's the talk of the town these days. I can understand that part. So, for the benefit of our audience, let me give you a brief introduction about Sayo. Sayo is a filmmaker and innovator whose works explore the nexus of humanity, social change, and technology. Her documentaries and mobile photography have captivated global attention from CNN to The Guardian, from the People's Daily to the Times of India. Her latest work is AI for Humanity, an interdisciplinary collaboration with an AI scientist and AI governance expert. Her storytelling transcends mediums, advocating for a future where technology empowers humanity. Sayok's notable work include Humans of Beijing, a visual homage to the cities Hong Kong and Beijing City in time. Her interdisciplinary collaboration with novelist Ning Can, which won the prestigious Yu Shun Literary Prize in 2018. Her groundbreaking film Twittermentary tells the story of early adopters of Twitter pioneering the concept of crowdsourcing a film through social media. That's so interesting, Sayo. Like it, I have never seen a profile talking so much about technology from a different perspective, the filmmaking aspect, and as you talked about the Twitter metry. So, would you like to share to our audience how the transition happened? That were you initially into technology and moved to filmmaking, or you were from filmmaking and moved to technology?
Yeah, I think the it's very interesting. Thanks so much for the generous introduction. I think people, so I joke that I'm a recovering television producer. It's like because people don't watch TV on TV anymore. People watch TV on their phones, on their tablets, on their computer. So I started introducing. So I think essentially, to me, the storytelling is still the same, except that the technology and the format changes. So I've gone from television to internet, YouTube, mobile to AI. So I think to me, people look at my profile and think, oh, how could she have done so many different things? But I always think that I remain a visual storyteller, just that the technology and the medium becomes different. But I'm still trying to do the same thing. I think the what I'm interested in is actually about how technology impacts humanity, right? How I think the technology part is interesting to me, but only because it has such an immediate influence on our daily lives, right? In terms of, uh, from the moment we wake up to the moment we go to bed, we are being influenced by AI in every way, right? So, for example, I was rushing to come on this show, and then in the cab, I'm using Google Maps, trying to find my way, make sure that we're on time and things like that. So I think to me, I'm a visual storyteller. I'm interested in telling the story of humanity through the lens of technology and social change.
That's so insightful and interesting, Sayo. My question before we start discussing about AI for humanity is about your documentary Twitter mentary. So, would you like to explain your observation when it talks about that it was about stories of early adopters of Twitter?
Yeah, around 2000, late 2000s and into 2012, 2013, I made a film called Twittermentary. It's a crowdsourced documentary about Twitter, right? In the early adopters, meaning 2009 is around the time when people started, Twitter started going mainstream, which means that celebrities, political figures started using Twitter in a very active way to get their message across, to connect with their fans, connect with their supporters. That's around the time I made the film. So what was innovative about so the stories, the footage, the team, the all my creative production team came from Twitter. So the people who heard about uh, the project on Twitter and then decided to support it, from my producer to my stories. So it's interesting because, for example, I did a screening in India and it was covered in uh, the newspaper, and I did it in Jaipur. Me message mention me and say I want to bring the screening to India. At first I thought maybe this is a scam, this cannot be serious. This random person in India offering to screen my film in India. But it turns out has transformed the way that we with each other, one another, the way that we tell our own stories. So that was Twitter. Twitter today is not like that anymore, right? Twitter today is very different from 12 years ago. So
Yeah, thanks for sharing that. And I understand that there seems to be some network delays, so probably our audience need to be a bit more focused when listening to. There are some gaps which might be there, but that should be fine. I think because the message is important, our audience should be able to receive your message, because that is the most important thing. So I understand now that how the Twitter metry came into existence and what all you did there. So how did you uh, got this idea of AI for humanity? So how this idea started, and what was your initial thought when you were creating this piece of work?
yeah, I think it's a great question, and the main thing I think there's a bit of a misunderstanding when people think about innovation or creativity. They think that there's some one person will sit in a room and have a fully formed idea and go out and look for the team to realize the idea. But that's not the way it usually happens. What usually happens is that people are part of a community of innovators, entrepreneurs, creators, and they listen to one another. They have conversations with one another, right? So, for example, uh, I will know you because, and I know of your work, I know of your show, and then one day we might have a conversation on Zoom or in person, and you are working on something, and I offer to help. So it's a very ordinary way in which the book came about. Um, I know one of my co-authors, James, from the time we were in China together. So right after the pandemic was over and the lockdown was lifted and we were free to mingle and go out for meals and all that, I met him and I asked very innocently, "Hey, what are you working on?" So let me ask you, because what are you working on?
I'm also working on my one upcoming book, what top 1% do differently.
Yeah, that's right. So he said he's working on a book about AI with another co-author. Then I said, how can I help? And so I think it's one of those conversations that I could be having with you now, right? Because you're working on this book. So I said, how can I help? And most of the time, the conversation doesn't lead to any collaboration. It's just kind of like, oh, we're being supportive of one another. But it happens that James, the AI scientist, took my offer very seriously, and he managed to include me as a co-author of the book. So that's how it happened, right? And I think the main contribution I have to the book is really as a, a storyteller, right? Because my co-author, one has a AI PhD, the other one's like AI governance expert. But I am the one who try to synthesize the expertise and share it with everyone, so that everyone view every storyteller as someone who synthesized the expertise and try to
Can you hear us? I think, yeah, it seems there is some network issue. So while Sayo is back, I would like to ask from people. So I see a comment coming from Peter Davidson. You have done a lot of things, Sayo. So he must be knowing. So Peter. He is joining from Shanghai. Welcome, Peter, to the show. So once she is back, I'll share this message with Sayo as well. Then we have Mohit saying very inspiring. Thanks, Mohit, for the comment. And we have a couple of comments in the pipeline. So we will take up once we have Sayo back. In the meantime, I would like to know your experience with AI. Like probably in the chat box also you can type that what is the what is your profile and how you are using AI, how it is making an impact in your life. Because humanity is changing, things are changing very rapidly, and it is quite an important thing that we are updated on all these aspects. So let me wait for Sayo to come back. And in the meantime, in case you have more questions, you can type in the chat box. And as soon as Sayo is back, I'll share this question with her. Right. I'm waiting for her to join back. There must be some network delays on that part. So what is the audience understanding of artificial intelligence and how it is impacting their businesses? Can we have few comments around that? I'm checking with her. So I'm seeing a message coming from Peter. Last year we were using AI tools to draft a marketing campaign with both copy and image tools. That's interesting. Thanks, Peter. Thanks for sharing that about your usage of artificial intelligence. What about others? How you have used artificial intelligence in your work, and how do you think that it is going to be impacting your work in near future? While we have Sayo back. Thanks, Peter. Thanks again for sharing your insight. What about others? Can I have the comments coming from others that what you are doing? So definitely, I see a lot of questions coming. Let me see if Sayo seems to be there are some network delays. Let me check with her. Yes. So I see question coming, different question coming. So we have one question coming from Pankaj Singh Negi. How does emotional intelligence become important when integrated with artificial intelligence in order to make sustainable choice for humans? We have another question coming from Nikhil regarding AI computation amidst a huge carbon footprint, how this will impact sustainability in the long run. We have another question coming from Sagar Manocha. How can AI be strategically applied to drive sustainable development while balancing emotional conservation, resource efficiency, and social equity? Seems like we have a lot of questions, and let me check what skills will need people to work with AI in the future. Definitely, take up all these questions. Let me check with Tayo if she's back. Give me a moment while I'm checking this with Sayo. I think she's experiencing some network issues. That's the beauty of technology. Like there are some time when we face certain kind of problems, but I think we should be able to get over these problems soon. In the meantime, we get to see Sayo joining. Probably I'll see based on my experience how I can answer some of these queries. But I would really love to have if you like to share your experience. So we saw Peter talking about his experience with AI, that how they have used AI. So would you also like to talk about that, how you have used artificial intelligence in your work and how it has helped you? Yep. So I'll pick up some question while we wait for Sayo to join. So probably I'll pick one question. I have some background over it, so probably I'll answer that perspective while we hear back from Sayo on this. So it talks about the question is from Union Bhardwaj, which talks about what skill will people need to work with AI in future. So thanks Union for asking this question, and definitely the skills required to work with artificial intelligence are a bit different from the way that we have been interacting with technology, because as per the acclimatization and adaptation, we have worked with technology in a manner that we understand that it will do the basic work, and then we will automate that work and use some level of robotics. But so far we have not been used to of finding those problems which can be solved by AI, because that is a different space. So probably the first and foremost thing is for the people who are looking to develop solution in artificial intelligence. Probably what they need to do is to find out those use cases which can be solved only through AI, which are not coming from the existing use of technology, the way we have solved these problems earlier. One such example which is coming to my mind is the way we remove the background of an image. Now, if we would have taken an earlier example, and if anyone of you have seen a Photoshop person doing using a Photoshop tool to remove the background, they will manually connect the dots and take the outline of that person. That used to be the way people will use to remove the background from an image. And you can just forget about removing background from a video. But in nowadays, it has become so much easier. You just pick up any pic and remove the background. So the use cases are a bit different when we are using artificial intelligence. So it will be the role of technology people as well as leaders to think of those different kind of use cases that can be used to solve the artificial intelligence and adopt the artificial intelligence in their work. So I hope that answers your question to some extent. But whenever Saul will join, I'll see if I'm able to take up that question again. Thanks, Sunyan. Thanks for asking that question. I see another question coming from it's only show what are the major LinkedIn user, what are the major risks associated with developing artificial general intelligence. One of the foremost risks that is being talked about while developing the general artificial intelligence is the competition with the human itself. The previous technology that we have used, the automation and robotics, it was making the role of people obsolete, but only to the extent of automation. But it was not making the human obsolete. But this technology has potential to make there are other areas which can also can become obsolete, and this has its own power. So with the our existing system, in unless someone is operating that system, it cannot work on its own. So for example, if I'm having a remote control any car or something, unless there is someone human who is controlling that car will not move. But the way we are developing artificial general intelligence, where there can be a car which can move on its own and take decision based on how the it has been given the instruction, or I should say the general intelligence. That's the beauty of word general intelligence. Now it becomes and creates an unpredictable situation. So definitely it will open up many areas of work. But while we say that, it has again some other problems that people have to develop. But I think again it's like any other system that when we implement a new technology, there are some risk areas, there are some things that are getting created, but then we find some other ways of solving those problems. So definitely there will be people who will focus on creating the solution. I see Sayo, you are back now.
So sorry. I
No
think
problem.
I think you obviously don't need me because you're answering the questions very well. Um
Oh,
I
you could
think
hear that. Thanks.
yeah, I think some of the questions that I see people sharing, and I thank everyone for your questions and your patience. I think in terms of, for me, in my experience of AI, I think I've might become much more aware of how I interact with AI. Because I think the reality is that AI has been embedded in many of our applications for a long time. I think we became hyper aware of it when ChatGPT launched, mainly because it has this chat bot, right? You have this, you can chat with ChatGPT. Previously, AI was embedded in uh, social media, e-commerce apps, maps, etc. But it wasn't something that was separate that we can kind of converse with. I think that's the main difference. I think what I have been, uh, what was interesting was that we actually ChatGPT launched about a few months into the writing of the book. So we weren't quite sure whether it was the best thing that happened to us or the worst thing that happened to us, because it became a lot more stressful, because every was like, oh my gosh, this is so new. How do we make sense of it? So I think what one of the things I've become much more aware of is really uh, like how I want to guide the AI, right? In the sense, in the beginning, I was quite naive, as in I was just trying to automate everything. I would say, write me this 500 word section in the book, and I expected it to magically write the section for me. Then I realized that actually I need to be much more. It's like cooking a recipe, cooking a meal, like a curry or some home cooked meal. I need to have a very precise step by step instruction for the AI. So I think that's one of the things I learned, which is really to understand that the AI is as good as I am, right? And when I say as good as I am, it's many dimensions. One is uh, my ability to guide the AI, my AI skill, my prompting skills, my understanding of the nature of AI. The other part is actually my domain expertise, right? So if I'm generating a video, how good am I as a video producer? If I'm translating something from um, English to Chinese, how good is my Chinese, right? How good is my English? So, for example, I cannot translate something from English to, I cannot guide AI if I'm translating something from English to Hindi or Tamil because I don't know Hindi or Tamil. So I don't know whether the translation is good or bad. Therefore, I
Okay.
cannot give it feedback. So I think, I realized a few things. One is that um, I'm the AI is only as good as I am, and as good as I am is now more than just my industry experience and domain expertise. Is also my AI skills, my understanding of how to guide, to prompt, to redirect the AI so that I get the results that I want. And I think that that's a very interesting learning journey in that sense. I think I also started with thinking that automation is what I want out of AI, right? To for efficiency and productivity. But what I realized is that automation is not as interesting as augmentation, getting AI to uh, push me to improve, getting AI to be my coach, getting AI to critique my work. It's also not as interesting as my ability to kind of co-evolve with AI, to adapt to the AI, to kind of respond, to learn, even as AI becomes better, that I also evolve in my ability. I become more intelligent, hopefully, I become more creative, I become more original, more analytical. So I think that's been what's interesting about my AI journey.
Makes sense. Makes sense. Thanks, Ayo, for sharing that perspective. I have one question coming from Nikhil Agarwal, who is CEO of VectoScalar Technologies. So he's asking, AI computation emits a huge carbon footprint. How will this impact sustainability in long run?
Yeah, I think it's something that we address in the book, the whole idea of sustainable AI. And as we all know, I think the challenge of AI consuming a lot of energy and resources is a very real one. In fact, I think there was a recent story about Microsoft um, trying to generate enough power by there's a this island called 3 Mile Island. It's a nuclear power generating plant that has been shut down for a long time, and Microsoft is buying the licensing rights to get the power to support all the AI computing that it needs to do. I think the questions are multifold. The answer is multifold. Number one, there are people who are actively trying to reduce the energy requirements of AI, right? Can we be the AI be just as good but require 20% of the power, 50% of the power? I think the other thing is really also the fact that maybe we don't want AI to do everything. Maybe what we want to do is to have more precise, smaller models that can be guided by humans so that you don't need to have an AI that is trained on the whole internet, on a trillion parameters and consume so much energy. So if we put human back at the center of AI models, some people use the term small language model instead of a large language model. If you think of saving energy, not just in terms of reducing the energy consumption of AI models, but making people more essential to guiding the AI to deliver better outcomes. I think that's kind of the human centric perspective of how to make AI more sustainable.
Thanks for answering that question. Yeah, I have another question coming from. First, before I share the another question, probably I should show that we have a person joining and who was saying hi to you. You have a lot of different things I saw it on. So probably he is joining from Shanghai, and Peter also shared his perspective and usage that last year we were using AI tool to draft a marketing campaign with both copy and an image tool. So definitely there are various use cases which has been shared with by others. I have a question regarding one of your work which you have done, that about AI artificial friendship. That there have been films about like where the person is falling in love with AI virtual assistant and that has a female voice and so falling in love with, and probably that person is not that much into falling in love with real person. So how is this beginning of new human digital software relationship and how it can be monitored and nurtured? Since again
Yeah,
there
I
is,
think
yeah,
Peter is a friend. Thanks for sharing his question, and I thank him for his patience in waiting for our technology to work. I switched off my video briefly just so I can hear better. I think my perspective on in terms of AI automating marketing is that um, I think we're still at a very early part of the cycle, right? I think we're at the part of the cycle where people are just trying to get AI to do everything from the copy to image generation. And what has happened is that some freelancers, consultants, marketing agencies may have found that they are being replaced, right? The client has taken the job away from them and given it to put it in house or given it to the AI. I think that that's the beginning of the cycle. I think in the long run, the expectations will, in a way, people will not be happy with AI only marketing campaign, right? Because
okay,
the problem with AI only is that everyone sounds the same, right? If, for example, if you try to generate an image that has the word AI in it, you will have the same elements, the chips, the circles, the same colors, etc. So I think my response to Peter, my friend, is that I think that eventually marketing will go back to a place where humans will be required and be central to it, right? Because the thing about economics is that if you have an oversupply of a certain commodity, for example, automation, AI generated images, uh, automated copy, people will become tired of it. In fact, I hear from some of my marketing agency friends, they say that they get feedback now and say, oh, this is too auto polish. This is too perfect. So it doesn't seem authentic, right? So you're going to start hearing this feedback as in, oh, we don't like that anymore because it seems to be AI generated. So I would say that for my marketing friends, to understand that you're at the beginning of the cycle, and eventually, I think the human element will become much more valuable, right? Because people, even if the AI generated copy is quite good, people don't like the fact that they are not interacting with a human being, right? That they are just being kind of, uh, there's a robot or there's someone communicating with tens of thousands of people at the same time. So I think in terms of AI marketing, we're going to eventually move to a new equilibrium where human and AI will need to be kind of very closely intertwined in terms of producing the final product.
got it, got it. Thanks for answering that uh, information in detail. And now I also asked about one more thing about the human digital software relationship. So what's your take on it? Like there was a recent movie where one person fall in love with a AI virtual assistant and not liking even the human anymore. So how do you see this dynamic of the society changing and how it can be monitored?
Well, I think that I think to me, this whole idea of human AI relationship is a very complex one. I think in part because um, I think being human, we tend to project a lot of our emotional attachment onto software, gaming, all sorts of things, sometimes a stuffed toy. So this is not new. I think we have done it always because we need to be in relationship with everything, whether it's nature, whether it's one another, whether it's an AI chatbot. I think the danger is that we it's okay if we see in perspective, right? If we understand that it's one part of our support system, right? That we occasionally will use AI as a sounding board, we'll confide or share certain things with AI or seek advice. I think the danger is probably that we will have an entire generation of young people growing up where their main dependency is only with chatbots or online, right? Just like we now have young people who grew up only in the social media world, right? They have not never seen themselves except through the Instagram filters, right? With the AI, they see the projections onto social media. They've never seen themselves without that projection, like as normal human beings who are not so perfect, have flaws, don't have perfect skin, and things like that. And I think the danger with the relationship with human and AI is that we are expecting too much of it, right? I think the fact is that the AI is very helpful, can be very supportive, but we need to understand that our I think we need to understand how to relate to nature, how to find our place in the universe, and how to be connected to one another, right? So I think what you see on social media now is that because people only interact through a social media algorithm, which is an element of AI, they don't really know what other people are like without the filter, right? Because you're always following people on social media, you're always in the same echo chamber. You don't have it's like you're almost like permanently wearing sunglasses. You don't know what the world looks like without your sunglasses, right? You imagine that it always looks that way, but that's not reality. I think having a more holistic perspective on the world is quite important. So that, for example, when I look at Vickers, I'm not looking at you only through your social media feed. I'm not looking at you only through your LinkedIn posts or your Twitter posts. I think one of the things that people don't realize is that we talk about AI being so amazing because of the data that we train it on, but we forget that AI is always incomplete because the data set is incomplete, right? So for example, you and I are talking now on a video stream, but none of us will say everything or capture everything that we do, think, etc., and put it on social media. The social media itself is already filtered and selective. And if we think that the AI filtered world is the entire universe, we're going to become very disappointed human beings. I think that's I think to understand that the AI world is magical, and we can do amazing things in it, within it, but it's incomplete. It's not a full representation of our humanity or human experience, I think.
Got it. Got it. Thanks, Sayo, for answering that. I have another question coming from Akhil Chaudhary, who is asking, what role should governments play in AI development? You talked about that one of your author is coming from governance background.
Yeah, I was wondering what's happening in India from your perspective in terms of governance? Because I is what role is the government playing in India? So if you can educate me.
Yeah, definitely there are many things that are happening at the national level. And while the development is happening in all aspects, but on the focus of AI, also there are many initiatives that have been taken by government. There are dedicated departments which are working on it. And there are working bodies like NASCOM and other bodies that are also taking active participation in AI development. So I'm sure these things are already work in practice, and there are other things also which are the usage of existing AI. So how ChatGPT and similar other open source AI development tools can be used, and language learning models (LLMs) can be used to further capitalize. I think has been a lot of work that is being happening in India as well.
Yeah, I think that AI governance is a very interesting challenge. I think partly, I think firstly because there are a lot of differences across national boundaries and regions and cultural differences, right? So, I think in AI there's this holy grail, this vision of artificial general intelligence, so that AI can reach a human level of uh, competence or output, can match human beings in terms of the tasks that we do. I think what we don't realize is that it's very hard to attain AGI, not just because of technical challenges, but because of geopolitical differences, right?
Yeah,
Because every country, every region will want to define what that general intelligence or what truth, what facts mean, right? Because to lose control of that will be very uh, will be a threat to the country, right, or to the sense of national identity. So I think
got it.
what's very interesting for AI is that you probably see in terms of governance coexisting models, right? People, every country, every government with the resources will have their own large language model, will have their own set of rules. I think the thing to remember is that the role that government play is not just in terms of laws. We think about regulation, banning things and uh, punishing people. But very importantly, it's also about culture and norms, right? Because I think when you have the law, it also means that this is our norm. This is what it means for AI to do no harm to humanity. So I think there are different schools of thought. What I've observed is that, for example, in Europe, they are more happy to regulate and have very detailed rules. I think in some other parts of the world, people want to give more room because they're afraid that if you regulate too much, that you will suppress the innovation. Like people will be less creative, right? Because people will be um, so I think what we will see that's interesting is that um, we also the other thing to remember about AI development is that big tech companies play a very important role, right?
Yeah,
The Meta, the Google, the Microsoft, the etc. They play a very important, and some of the Chinese, Indian tech giants as well. The thing is that uh, they will interact with the government in very complex and interesting ways, right? Um, because the tech companies actually, most of them have bigger populations than most countries or continents, but then they have to abide by the laws of the government. I give you an interesting example. For example, Twitter, or now it's called X, uh,
yeah,
was fighting with the Brazilian government for a while because the Brazilian government wanted to comply with its local laws, and uh, Elon Musk and X refused, and it was blocked for a while. Eventually, the Elon Musk and the platform paid the fines and decided to abide by the laws. So I think what will be very interesting is that, for example, maybe the European laws will be more strict and more detailed than the American ones or the Indian ones or the Singaporean ones. But because Europe is a very big continent and very important market, I think the big tech companies will start setting their norms and guardrails based on the European guidelines, even though they're not required to follow them in Singapore or India or the US
got it,
or
got it. Thanks.
Brazil for that matter. Yeah.
Definitely, different nations are working together to manage the AI, and how each country and each nation can best leverage the technological development that is happening. Thanks for answering that. I already see many compliments coming up in the chat box. So we have a compliment coming from Aman Rana, highly insightful session. Peter also mentioned that absolutely agree with you on the human-centric focus back to marketing. You need creative strategies like Siok Siok Tan, and that's so interesting. So there are many other questions in the pipeline, but in the interest of time, we would not be able to take all the remaining questions. Probably, if you get time, you can have a look at the question on LinkedIn and answer some of them if possible. Yeah,
Yeah,
and
I just want to thank everyone for the patience because we did struggle with the connection earlier on. So I really appreciate people for putting up with it, you know. So yeah.
yeah. So we have the for the audience, the contact you can connect with Sayo on the LinkedIn profile, and it is being shown down below. So you can start following the work of Sayo there and get useful insights about AI for humanity. Sayo, it was lovely having you in Tech Talk today. We understand some of the glitches, and it's quite normal. We are in the disruptive world, things are happening like that. But how do we accommodate all those disruption is the role of humanity right now. From that perspective, before we close out for today, any last message for our audience before we say bye bye to them?
Well, I think that it's very important that the world hears the story of India, you know, and the rest of the world, because I think in the process of researching the book, I discovered that most of the stories that we are most famous and we talk about are mainly from US, China, and sometimes Europe, you know, maybe the UK or Netherlands or something. I feel that India and many other parts of the world are underrepresented. Like we have no idea what's happening in Brazil. We have no idea what's happening in Estonia, for example. So I think in part I feel that one of our mission in terms of AI for humanity is also to amplify the stories of the global majority, right? Because if you think about it, uh, India, China, Southeast Asia is almost like we're half the humanity, half of the human population,
More than half,
but
I
we
would say.
represent more than half, but we represent a very small percentage of the stories that
Yeah,
people share about AI, right? And I so that's one thing, which is really that we need India stories, India perspective to be much more represented in the tapestry of AI for humanity. I think the other thing that's very important also is really that um, that it's really about kind of kind of understanding and participating. I think that it's not just the technology experts that should be part of the conversation. I think AI really should make everyone a technologist, right? Everyone should be able to make things, develop applications, because now with generative AI, everyone who can instruct a chatbot can code, you know, can generate an image, can create a website. So I think the interdisciplinary participation is also going to be very important. So I think in part my motivation to co-author the book AI for Humanity as well as to be on this show tonight is also that I want um, people to not feel intimidated, right? Just because don't have a computer science degree, you're not an engineer or anything like that, doesn't mean that you cannot participate in the AI for Humanity movement or to join the conversation and share what you're experiencing. So I think those are my perspectives. I think to represent the global majority, the rest of the world, including India, Singapore, many other parts. And the other thing is that it should be everyone, no matter whether you're an engineering expert or technology expert, to join the conversation, to uh, feel that you can be a part of this movement to make sure that we develop AI in a way that benefits humanity.
Thanks, Ayo. Thanks for such a beautiful message that it's not just a technology, it's more than technology. It's a societal change that is happening, and along with it's a movement, and how individuals, whether they have a background in technology or not from technology, they are supposed to take part in this conversation. That's a very powerful message to end this today's VectoScalar Tech Talk show. Again, thank you very much. Thanks for being here. See you. Bye.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much, everyone, for joining us and for your patience. And please connect with us online on LinkedIn, both Vickers and myself. Yeah.
Bye bye.
Thank
Thank you.
you.